Did you know that nearly 90% of home inspiration today comes from social media and not real life? And that's exactly why so many homes have started to look identical. And today, I'm going to teach you a step by step on how to reclaim your creativity, mix texture, mix color, mix eras, and design a home that stands out. Hi guys, I'm Louie. I'm an architect and designer, and here on The Interiorist, I try to take everything that I've learned in the past 20 years working with design and package it into practical tips that you can apply to your home. So if you're as obsessed with how people live and as obsessed with design as I am, then you're in the right place. Stick around till the end of the video because today I'm going to teach you how to create something that is unique to you. Before we get started, I just want to address the elephant in the room, and that is this right here. No, right here. This is a scratch. It's a scratch that has been on my walls since the day I moved into this house and we were installing these shelves and it got scratched. I've tried to clean it out. It will not budge. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know because I know a lot of you eagle-eyed viewers have spotted it. Some of you have tried to wipe your screens and it is not on your screen. It is on my wall, so don't worry about that. Don't damage your computers over it. If I reach 25,000 followers, and I think that's a big ask because I've only been doing YouTube for 2 months now, but if I do get there, then I will make it gone. Poof, disappeared. So hopefully that will make you guys happy because honestly, it'll make me a little happy too. So like I said, nearly 90% of home inspiration today comes from social media, not real life. And what that means is our homes are becoming a reflection of the algorithm. And although the algorithm is very good at showing us what we interact with, what we interact with is not necessarily a reflection of how we want to live. So what happens is the more we see something, if we like it, if we just linger on the post a little longer, it will show us that again. And what we get is a bit of the same old thing over and over and over again, when what we want to do is expose ourselves to new visual styles and break that cycle. So how are we going to go about it? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to discover our visual voice. Okay, quick time out. Before we get started in the video, all the sources are referenced in the description below. So if you're interested, click on the links and do a deep dive of your own. But I'm going to go mentioning some of the studies that I came across while I was doing this video. The first thing is to look inward before you scroll. So open your closet. What colors and materials do you actually wear and love? Because if you're drawn to linen and soft neutrals, your space will probably feel best in those same palettes. If you live in bold prints and metallics, then you want to lean into that energy. You can also mine your experiences. So this means to think of places that make you feel at ease. So maybe your favorite cafe, a hotel that you loved, a memory from a trip. You want to take notes on textures, color, even the type of lighting, because those personal references will always feel more timeless than something that's trending online. Also, try to create an offline mood board. So you're going to try and go analog for a second to create a mood board because seeing things differently might be just what you need. Mix in magazine pages, screenshots from films, photos you've taken, textures like fabric or paper, and it will help you see your taste beyond the screen. And finally, define your style in 3 words. Now, this is a simple exercise that builds clarity and direction. Maybe your style is warm, collected, global, or it's moody and sculptural and refined. So keep those words in mind when making design choices. They will serve as a guide. So the main takeaway here is that you want to reflect on your lifestyle, the things you like, the places you've been, to create something that is inspired by your lifestyle, not by data. And that way you're starting to think of a home that reflects you. Tip number 2 is to mix eras for authenticity. And the reason I say that is because if you go on Instagram, for example, and you look the hashtag modern home, you'll see that it has 5.9 million views according to research. But actually, if I check it right now, we have over 6.1 million posts for the hashtag modern home. And what that does is basically, if everybody is drinking from the same inspiration source and just repeating the same formulaic visual over and over again, spaces start to lose their identity. So this whole copy and paste thing of visuals that we see is what designers call the flattening effect. And the way you get away from it is basically by mixing styles and eras, because by mixing these things, we start to get that lived in feel, that collected over time vibe that you just do not get when you are creating something that's replicating an image or a showroom catalog or something that just feels predictable. We want something a little bit unpredictable. And that's why we're going to mix the eras in. So here's how you can get started. Try starting by anchoring your space with one dominant style. So choose a base, for example, mid century modern, contemporary, or Scandinavian. These keep your foundation cohesive, then layer in accents from other eras to break the uniformity. So think in contrasts and not clashes. So you're going to pair opposites that balance each other, like a minimalist sofa with a vintage Persian rug or a sleek marble table with wooden chairs. The goal is tension that feels curated and not chaotic. You can also try mixing materials across time, which means combine matte and glossy, rough and smooth, metal with wood. A 1960s metal lamp next to a contemporary concrete wall immediately feels richer. So, material contrast tells a story of evolution and not replication. You also want to avoid the theme trap. Do not design a 1950s room or a boho space or a kawaii corner. Themed spaces feel artificial and they age fast. So instead, treat your home like a timeline. Each piece should represent a different chapter of your life and your tastes. You also want to shop where history lives, so try visiting flea markets, estate sales, or even online marketplaces because you want to look for one of a kind finds with craftsmanship. So, a carved wood side table, an old ceramic vase, a chair with patina. What you're doing here is looking for the marks of time. Guys, a single vintage piece can make a world of difference because what you're doing when you're bringing in those vintage pieces into your home is you're bringing in the imperfections, like, where is it? Like this. You're bringing in the imperfections and you're bringing humanity back into the home, which are two qualities that algorithms can't replicate. Tip number 3 is that we're going to mix colors and texture with intention. And here's the thing, the algorithm, it doesn't just shape what we like, it also shapes what we see. And a study done this year in 2025 called the Aesthetic Photography Analysis found that posting neutral and pastel tones got nearly 50% more engagement than those with bold or saturated colors. And why? Well, basically because brighter colors look better on a mobile screen and the platform will push whatever performs the best. So the result of all of this is a digital echo chamber of beige. And don't get me wrong, I do like beige. I think it looks very elegant in a lot of spaces and I love light colors, but it's also safe and it's also predictable. And another thing the algorithm doesn't account for is color and the emotional depth that it carries. Because once you put color in a room, it won't just change how it photographs, it really will change how it feels. And when you bring in texture, you also start to layer in all of those characteristics that make it sensorial and tactile. So, what we want to do here is bring in those layers to add character to your room so that you can create something, like I said, that is yours. So here's how you can do it intentionally. You can use the 60-30-10 rule. If you have downloaded my color palette inspiration pack, then you know what that means. And basically we're gonna apply it this time to texture instead of colors. So we're gonna choose 60% base texture, which will be something like a soft plaster or linen. Then you're gonna go for your 30% secondary texture, which will be wood or leather or something else that you enjoy. And your final 10% will be your accent texture, something like stone, metal, or even a color. This will build layers that look cohesive, but also multidimensional. Next, you're going to choose one color moment. So you don't need a bright wall to break up the monotony. Just try something like maybe a painted ceiling in sage or taupe, or a color trim around the door or window. A muted rug that anchors neutrals also works great, and even books, ceramics, or art can do the work of paint. Next, you're going to pair texture families. So you're going to combine rough and refined like linen curtains against polished stone, or a velvet sofa beside raw wood. The tactile contrast keeps the eye moving even in a tone-on-tone space. And finally, we're going to borrow from nature, our best teachers. So look outside your window, and nature never uses one tone of beige. You will see layers, so soil, bark, moss, sky. Really take that in and try and recreate that mix in your home for a palette that feels organic and timeless. Now, I just want to say the point here isn't to reject neutrals, it's just to kind of bring intention back into them so that when you start to work with color and texture and you bring in different tones, different sensorial layers, and you create this rich tactile environment, that all of a sudden, through all of its layers, will make the quietest palette seem alive. Tip number 4 is to bring personality back into decor, and here's something to think about. A study done globally this year, 2025, showed that 60% of people said their homes were inspired by social media, but only 22% of them said their homes felt personal. Now, another study called Embodied Spaces in Digital Times showed that homes are being designed to photograph well, but not necessarily to live in well. And the result is you get these gorgeous homes that just look great on camera, but they don't necessarily feel good to live in. So here's how to fix that and bring your story back into your space. You can start by curating and not copying. So stop replicating entire Pinterest rooms. Instead, pull one or two ideas that resonate with your personality. Ask yourself, why are you drawn to something? Is it the color, the shape, the feeling? That's how you translate inspiration into authenticity. You can also collect stories instead of stuff. So every home needs a few things that carry memory. It could be a piece of art you made or bought while traveling, a vintage photo in a simple frame, a handmade object from a local market, even a souvenir mug from a meaningful place. These small details tell people who you are and will remind you of who you are. Also, try mixing the personal with the polished. So, pair a statement piece with something deeply personal, like a sculptural lamp next to a family heirloom. The contrast creates warmth and authenticity. And you can also try creating a signature element. So, think of something that you want to become your thing. Maybe it's colorful art, maybe it's sculptural lighting, stacks of books, or plants everywhere. The repetition across rooms builds an identity. It'll be your version of a design signature. And finally, you can try embracing imperfection. Real homes evolve, so don't be afraid of scratches, mismatched chairs, or even paint marks. Those things tell a story of use and time, and they make your space feel alive. What you want to remember here is that when you fill your home with meaningful things, it will automatically make it timeless because no trend can compete with a space that feels like you. Tip number 5 is to be bold, but still balanced. Now, what we've seen for the past decade or so is just grayish minimalism taking over our feeds. And now, what's happening is that the pendulum is finally swinging, and it is swinging towards dopamine decor. So, dopamine decor shows up as a backlash to the grayish minimalism, and it is interiors full of expression and life and color. And that's because people are craving richer interiors with more personality, more characteristics that reflect you, and just more vibrancy. So things have changed. We're now entering a new era of design, and I think we'll be there for a little bit. Being bold doesn't mean being chaotic. It's about expressing yourself without fear and editing thoughtfully. So here's how to do that in a way that still feels intentional and timeless. First, you're going to start with a single bold moment. So pick one element to take center stage. It can be a patterned rug, an oversized piece of art, colored tiles, or even a sculptural pendant. Then let the rest of the space support it. Think of it like a song, one solo, not all instruments at once. Next, you're going to balance energy with neutrals. So bold doesn't mean you have to abandon calm. If you have a strong color on the wall, keep your furniture simple and grounded. And if you've added a vivid sofa or rug, balance it with natural materials like wood, linen, or jute to calm the composition. You can also layer boldness gradually. So if you're nervous about color, start small. Paint the back of a bookshelf or an interior door, add colorful lampshades or patterned pillows, try temporary wallpaper or bold artwork before committing to the entire wall. That way you'll learn what feels exciting versus what overwhelms you. You're going to mix emotional and visual boldness. Being bold isn't just about color, it's about personal confidence. So display something unconventional, maybe a sculptural piece, a photo wall, or a bold shape that sparks conversation. What feels risky often ends up being what makes your home unforgettable. Finally, you need to know when to edit. So once you've gone bold, you need to take a step back and remove one piece, soften one surface, or simplify one color. Great design often comes from restraint. It's what allows your statement to shine. So the key takeaway here is that boldness is what's going to bring joy and individuality back into your space because your home shouldn't just be beautiful, it should actually make you feel something. Now, if you've been here before, you probably know by now I like a little bit of history, and that's why we go on promenades. And today we are promenading through the history of interior inspo. So where have we gotten inspiration from, and how do we do it now? Before social media, home design inspiration came from magazines, TV, and culture. In the 1950s, 60s, pop art and cultural movements introduced bold colors, graphic patterns, and playful furniture into homes, influencing interiors with art and vibrancy. Television shows like The Brady Bunch popularized mid century modern design, bringing clean lines, functional layouts, and iconic furniture into living rooms nationwide. Celebrities shape taste as well. Frank Sinatra's mid century modern home makes sophisticated, stylish interiors desirable to the public. And by the 1970s, magazines like House and Garden, Architectural Digest, and Interior Design featured vibrant, eclectic interiors, spreading trends and setting aspirational standards for readers. Then came the internet and social media, so platforms like Pinterest and Instagram shifted inspiration from human curation to algorithms. Likes and shares now drive trends, creating a flood of similar Instagrammable spaces that often prioritize aesthetics over individuality. We've always followed tastemakers, editors, artists, socialites. Today, we follow data. While algorithms dictate what we see, we've lost some of the human eye, the instinct, the nuance, and intuition that makes design personal. But here's the silver lining. With AI generating endless synthetic images, the counterculture will be human made, natural, and real. Homes guided by memory, emotion, and story will stand out, qualities that no algorithm can replicate. Don't get me wrong, I love a good Pinterest board, and I honestly believe that social media can be extremely helpful when finding inspiration. I use it myself, and after all, that's exactly what we're doing right now, isn't it? So, the idea here is not to stop using any of these tools, it's just not to lose yourself in all of it. Just remember what makes you you and prioritize those inspirational images to help put your home together. So, hopefully, by now, you are feeling more confident and more ready to design a home that stands out from the algorithm, and I promise you it will feel better than any picture. So guys, thank you for being here. If you like the video, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. And don't forget to check out the freebies in the description below. I have a color inspiration pack that I just is newly released, and it will help you choose color for your space, match it, mix it, how much of it to use. It's just really useful if you have a hard time with color or if you're a color pro and you just need something practical to get started. And I also have a home checklist, which is absolutely great. It goes room by room. It will give you different guides, schematics, and just tips on how to organize and decorate your home in a way that feels authentic to you. So if you like that, check them out. They're in the description. And I will see you again next week. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Bye.